What's going on, everyone? This is Ryan from RyansFortress, and welcome to the very first episode of the Megahit podcast. This is something very exciting. This is our very first episode on podcast. Is something I've wanted to do for a really long time, and we're finally here. So yeah, this should be pretty cool. Got a lot of fun stuff planned for this podcast, just in general. So yeah, but here we are, and ready to talk for the next 2 hours. So a lot I want to go over. Well, sort of a lot in this little introduction segment here. Just because it's, of course, our very first episode, so I want to just go over some stuff. So first of all, I'll just start with me. My name's Ryan from RyansFortress. I started RyansFortress about a little over 3 years ago, like early 2022. And it's just a blog that I created where I've been posting really just everything. There's a lot of different things I like. I like movies, I like TV, I like video games, sports, So I just post all kinds of stuff like that. I love writing, so it's kind of what was great about the website. But and then of course I also have a YouTube channel that I've had for a little while, probably as long as the website, where I same thing, just talk about all those kind of things. And I love writing, and I also just love talking. But a podcast, I feel like, is so different because it's not like there's really much writing. I'm not scripted right now, as you can probably tell by just in general how I'm talking. But I do not have a script right now. I created this thing called a mega script, and it's literally just an outline with bullet points. So I don't know why I'm naming all my stuff here, but I did. So our mega script is just the outline of all the kinds of things I want to talk about in each podcast. And yeah, so this is just just gonna talk basically, which is great and scary at the same time. But so yeah, we'll see what happens. So yeah, so that's a little bit about me. I will mention also I am on social media. Let me look up, because I'm gonna be completely honest. I don't remember exactly what my handles are. If you are on YouTube, I'm probably, if you're watching this around when this episode comes out, it'll probably just be on YouTube. I don't know what's going on with Spotify yet, because I'm just starting this. So we'll see what I decide to do there. But regardless, if you're watching this on YouTube, I'll leave all the links in the description. My website would just be RyansFortress.com if you want to check that out. I just have a bunch of fun stuff there, a bunch of fun posts. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And then, of course, my YouTube channel, just RyansFortress. I don't know what the handle is there, but it's probably just like, if you search RyansFortress, that'll probably just come up. And then, so Twitter, that's the main social media I'm on. I am on Instagram and Threads, but I barely post on there. If you want to follow me on Twitter, my RyansFortress account is my main account. And that one's just at RyansFortress, no spaces, capital R and F. And there that's just my main account, so I just post, kind of whatever there, and just whatever was on my mind, or sometimes I'll post stuff about like new posts on the website. So yeah, some fun stuff there. And then I also have my Megahit Media, Twitter. This, just by the way, this podcast is branded Megahit, but this is not like it's just kind of like overall my podcast related to RyansFortress Megahit Media. But yeah, so Megahit Media, I started that Twitter account, I think 2 years ago. And really what I do on it is, whenever I watch a new movie or a new TV show or play a new video game, I just basically just post my, like, a score of it. And it kind of lets me keep track of all of the stuff I've seen and played, in the since 2 years now. So yeah, if you want to follow me there, see what I'm watching, then there you go. I also do have a Megahit Media website, but we're still working on it. There's not really a lot there. There's some stuff, but we're still working on the design of it. And yeah, so that's that. I don't really want to go too much into this because it's not really the theme of this podcast. I will be starting a Megahit podcast Twitter. I would like to start that so I can just have one dedicated account for the podcast, and some stuff there. But yeah, so I'll share that at a later date. And yeah, so that's all that. And now we get into the good stuff with our podcast schedule. So I want to talk a little bit about how each of these episodes are going to work, because they'll all have the same structure, but I'll be talking about different things. So after introduction, most episodes we're probably not going to have an introduction this long, because I probably wouldn't have as much stuff to talk about. But then after our introduction, we'll go into a news segment where I have a bunch of headlines to read, just random stuff going on related to, the movies, games, sports, all kinds of different things. So just have some headlines, some stuff that's happened or been announced in the past week, pretty much. And so that's that. And then we start off with our first like category segment almost. And that's where we get into the real part of the podcast. So we'll have 3 main segments. They'll probably be in the same order. Sometimes I might change it for certain reasons, but I would like it every episode to have these 3 categories, which is a movie and TV segment, a video game segment, and a sports segment. And then after those 3, it's just the end of the video or the end of the podcast. Just that's how it works. And basically each of those segments will be roughly like 30-ish minutes. Those are where I'm really just going to have a topic related to that. So I'll have a topic where I talk about something related to movies and TV, something related to video games, and then sports. I'll talk about something going on with sports. I will mention for the sports, that's a little bit more limited because I usually am probably going to talk mostly about baseball because that's the sport I know the most. And a lot of times, like I am today, I'll be talking about Phillies because that's my favorite team and that's the team I know the most about, of course. So, but yeah, and the topics I'll talk about, especially for the other 2, the topics I'll talk about, it's almost like a live top 10 ranking, like a live narration of a post that I would post. I could post on like my website or my YouTube channel, which is kind of what we're doing today. So the topics we have for this video are for our movie segment. We have I'm going to be discussing my 3 favorite and least favorite movies of the year so far. And then for our video game segment, we are going to talk about Donkey Kong Bonanza. Huge, long discussion about that game. So that's going to be super fun. And then one more thing with the structure I forgot to mention is that for the movie and video game segment, what I'd like to do, I'm calling it like an icebreaker at the start of each segment. So for the movie segment, I'll start that segment with what I've recently watched, like basically within that last week, what new stuff I've watched, just to start it off before we get into the main topic. And then a video game segment, just what I've been playing, that kind of stuff. We won't have that today because that's kind of mixed with our theme for the video game segment because it's Donkey Kong Bonanza, of course. But yeah, so that's our structure and that's how this episode is going to look. And then of course our sports segment, we're going to be talking about some bunch of different things with the Phillies. I have a whole list of things to talk about. We're going to be talking about how the Phillies have been looking since the All-Star break and all this kind of fun stuff. So yeah, that's how we're looking today. That's how we're looking for this podcast. And yeah, that's our introduction. So let's jump into our news. We got some fun news to talk about at the start here. All right, so starting off with box office numbers. Got some big numbers flying in, sort of. If Box Office Mojo will load. So this past week, which would have been the 18th of July, we got Smurfs and I Know What You Did Last Summer. I have not seen either of those movies. I don't really, honestly, I don't really care to watch like Smurfs, especially since I think that movie has like a 14 or 18% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is not really surprising. It's kind of what I expected, but and then also I Know What You Did Last Summer. I think it's like a 45, which is kind of like the average probably for most B tier horror movies like that. So yeah, Superman is just raking right now at the box office. My computer is running very slow right now, but Superman is already at $416 million after really just about 2 weeks. And honestly, if you ask me, that's a big number to bring in, especially right before Fantastic Four. That's really good that the movie was able to get that much. I thought this movie would do good anyway. I didn't really think because it had that 2 week gap, and I don't really think it's going to affect Fantastic Four. I think Superman numbers are still going to be like pretty good. I don't think it's going to like just drop off this weekend, but I think 416 then it'll kind of not really flatline, but sort of like not do too much better. But I do think it is a good number to be at right before Fantastic Four. Speaking of Fantastic Four, too, we're not really talking about this today, but I will mention it is getting pretty good reviews, which I was kind of surprised about because I felt like every time I was watching one of those trailers, I just was liking it less and less. So, but yeah, I guess I don't know. So yeah, let's take a look. I Know What You Did Last Summer. Let's click on that one. $25 million for I Know What You Did Last Summer. That's not really like $12.7 million opening. So, you know what I mean? That's I think for a horror movie though, it's nothing too crazy. So yeah, and then let's take a look at Smurfs. Man, my computer is really slow. I'm very sorry about this, that this is taking long. Smurfs just under that, 11.1 million. And I honestly don't think Smurfs is going to do terrible at the box office. Yeah, 34 million. I honestly think what's going to happen is that this movie is going to do fairly well. It's going to get around 100 million. But then I think it's August 1st. Maybe it's August 1st. Maybe it's like, I don't know, something around that. When Bad Guys 2 comes out. And I've never seen the first Bad Guys movie, but I want to watch it because it got amazing reviews. And I think that comes out like early August. So I think once that comes out, Smurfs has like no chance. Because then no one's going to care about Smurfs, really, if you ask me. But yeah, Smurfs is not getting good reviews, so it's kind of at the same thing. But kids' movies, it's not as important. All right, so that's our box office thing. Let's get into some headlines here. All right, Stranger Things 5 receives its first official trailer, and the episode runtimes are all revealed to exceed 2 hours, with the finale the longest TV episode in history at 3 hours long. I remember, I thought I heard something like, I don't know, a year ago, where they were saying because Stranger Things 4 episodes were all like an hour, 15 minutes-ish. And then the last 2 episodes were all around like 2 hours. And then this one, and I thought they said that they were going to make them all like 50 minutes again or something like normal. But literally every single episode is over 2 hours. And I was curious. I was curious what the longest TV episode in history was. And it was kind of like a tie between like Stranger Things 4 finale and some other show. I forget what it's called. But it was like 2 hours and 30 minutes. And like every episode here is over 2 hours, just in general. The last episode is 3 hours long, which is insane. It is, that is like crazy. I forget if it's 8 episodes or 9. But it's so long either way. you can't really binge this show. So yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna binge it like I did number 4, but it's just like just stretch it in the 2 seasons then, because you really can. They probably stretch it into 3 seasons with how long these episodes are. So jumping into some video game news, Nintendo reveals its lead cast for the live-action film based on The Legend of Zelda with, I'm sorry if I say these names wrong, I think it's Bo Bragison as Zelda and Benjamin Evan Ainsworth as Link. I actually really like this casting. I don't know her, but I actually do know the guy who's playing Link, because there was a show I watched on Netflix like 4 or 5 years ago called The Haunting of Bly Manor, and I remember that kid in it. I don't think he had a big part, but I kind of remember he was like I think if I remember correctly, he was like this kid who was like lost in an attic or something. He was trapped in there. I don't really remember. But I saw his face, and I was like, I feel like I know him from somewhere. And there you go. That was a cool show, but that was really weird. But really what I'm happy about with this casting is just that it's not like it is nobody's, kind of. You know what I mean? It's not like well-known actors, which I was really, really scared about. That they were gonna pull that. So I'm really glad that they're not doing that. You see them and you're not thinking, oh, that's this guy, that's blah, 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 blah. No, you see them and it's like, that's Link, that's Zelda. You know what I mean? That's what you're gonna think, because you don't know as anything else. And I think that works great for this kind of a game. Voice actors for Peach and Toad in Mario Kart World finally revealed themselves on Twitter, being Courtney Lynn as Peach and Paul Castro Jr. as Toad. I actually saw this. I didn't see a report on it or anything. I think it was like 2 days ago. I was at work. I was on break. And I just looked at my phone and I saw these tweets and I was like, wait, are these like real? Because sometimes people will like tweet that and it's not real. And they're just like kidding or whatever. So it's kind of interesting. And then yesterday, as of filming, probably 2 days ago as of this coming out, mid another disappointing Pokemon Presents, Nintendo reveals Nintendo Switch 2 bundle, including Pokemon Legends Z through A, launching alongside the game on October 16th. The bundle, this will be the same price as the Mario Kart World bundle was, at $500. I do think it's funny seeing this, because it's not like a special Pokemon designed Switch 2. It's just another bundle, which is weird. I think that's kind of weird, but I don't know. And then Nintendo Direct rumors run rampant across social media. And what's funny about this, so I am recording this right now. It is 9:30 in the morning on Wednesday. Yeah, I forgot what day it was for a second. And one of the most talked about dates is actually tomorrow. So we might actually get a Nintendo Direct announcement while I'm filming this podcast in 30 minutes. So we'll see. I personally don't expect to get one. I think we're not going to get one until September, but I don't really know. I do want to talk, if we don't get a Nintendo Direct, I would like to talk about that soon. So maybe that'll be our next topic if we don't get a Nintendo Direct. So yeah. And then finally we have some interesting baseball news. Arizona Diamondbacks Ketel Marte loses $400,000 after being robbed while at the All-Star game. I just saw this last night and I was like, I need to mention this. And so while he was in Atlanta for the All-Star game, his house was robbed. And I forget if it was like he lost $400,000. It was $400,000 worth of items or whatever. I forget, but I mean, either way, it's still, huge loss. And honestly, I do feel really bad for him. I mean, with that incident like last week or something, or I think it was maybe 2 weeks ago, with that fan that was heckling him about his mom, and now this, I feel really, really bad for him, because he really is he's a great player, and I feel like he's honestly one of the more overlooked players in baseball, just because the Diamondbacks aren't as big. But yeah, I do think I think he's a great player, so I do think it is sad to see all this. But so that will be that. That is that for our news segment. And so yeah, let's dive into our that's all for our news segment. Let's dive into our movie segment and start with our little icebreaker here. So our topic today, first of all, is 3 best or worst movies of 2025 so far, as I mentioned before. And then, so recent watches, because of like Donkey Kong Bonanza and all this stuff, I haven't actually really seen a lot of new movies in a little while. But I have seen some interesting things. I think maybe 2 weeks ago or something, I watched Novocaine for the first time. That's a super cool movie. I think that's on Paramount Plus. That's a pretty cool movie. If you've never heard of it, it's Jack Quaid, and he basically has this thing where he just can't feel pain, which is and it's really cool how the movie runs with that idea. Like, it doesn't just feel like silly and stupid. Like, it actually is, adds a lot to the fight scenes, and it's really interesting how they play with that. So it's a pretty cool movie. Pretty cool, and Jack Quaid, of course, is really funny in it. Superman, of course. This is a really cool movie. I kind of mentioned this a little bit before, but yeah, Superman was a really cool movie, and personally, I think it wasn't quite what I wanted it to be. I do think it was a little bit, because people have been saying it's like very comic booky and stuff, and I just think in general it's a little silly. Like, there's very like overly silly parts to it, but I think overall it is very, very good. It's a very, very fun Superman interpretation from James Gunn. And then a TV show I just finished. I'm currently working on The Last of Us Season 2. Kind of took a break for that for a little bit. And then we're starting to pick it up again. But we just watched Paradise, which is on Hulu. And Hulu and Disney+. That's a really cool show. That one's also kind of like, there were little things about it I was kind of like on, especially with like the reveal at the end of it. I thought was really, really like just not done well, but I think overall it's a very cool show. Sterling K. Brown is excellent. You got James Marsden, who I only know from Sonic, playing this president in this like really high stakes situation in the world, and it's a super cool show. So yeah, definitely give it a watch if you are looking for that next show. It's a really interesting and unique like thriller. Like, it's like that political thriller kind of a thing. So it's a pretty cool idea if you can get around the weird concept. But yeah, it's pretty cool. So yeah, so that's what I've been watching. And so now let's get into our topic. So I've already mentioned before on Twitter, I did a little ranking, and I also did on my website. I posted about some of my favorite movies and least favorite whatever of the year so far. But we've got some more movies, so there's a couple other things, and there's just some movies on here I want to talk a little bit more about. So let's get into it. So So this is my 3 favorite and 3 least favorite. All right. So we're starting. I'm basically gonna start with my number 3 worst, my third worst, and then third best, and then we'll just keep going second worst, second best, and that's how that'll run. Okay, so Captain America: Brave New World is number 3 worst. I actually haven't watched this film since it's been after seeing it in theaters. I haven't seen it on Disney Plus, but I think this one was cool. And I think it was better than like critics and stuff made it out to be. Just in general, I do think it is a very, very good movie in many aspects, but it's also a very iffy movie on others. And I think that's kind of where it misses the mark, because there's so many things you want it to be, and it just isn't. And it also doesn't really like, the Red Hulk fight scene is like the big like thing in the movie, the big, just the big part, like you're waiting for it to happen. And it's a cool scene, but it's like, if you saw the trailers, it's like there's no, nothing there that like you haven't seen. And a weird thing with the movie, it's kind of ironic actually, that we can't, like, of course you want this movie to be as good as like Civil War and Winter Soldier. But there's parts in this movie that feel like those movies, but not in like a good way. Like it feels too much like those two movies instead of something different. Like, you're like, oh, this feels exactly like Civil War. It feels exactly like Winter Soldier, which is kind of weird. And I also will say, I don't think the movie did a great job of putting Sam Wilson in the spotlight. I think he's a great character, and I really like him as a character. I do really like him, but I don't think the movie did a good job of transitioning him into that lead role. I like him as a side character, but I don't think it did a good job of making him as strong of a lead character, especially to the level of, Steve Rogers. But it's actually something funny because then the very next movie, Thunderbolts, literally did the exact opposite. It did a great job of putting side characters in the spotlight. So some parts of this movie I was kind of iffy on, but I think for the most part it is pretty decent. If you didn't check this movie out while I was in theaters because of the critics' reviews, I would watch it if you have like Disney Plus, of course. I think it's a fun watch. It's not gonna like waste your time or anything, but it could be better. Number 3 best, we have Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. This was my most anticipated movie of the year going into the year, and it did disappoint me a little bit. There were little things, but I think just overall it's very, very good, very thrilling, and it was little things that I was iffy on. And because it's like the Mission Impossible franchise, I watched these movies for the first time like 2 years ago. I watched them all because I wanted to see Dead Reckoning, and they're just, what's just so great about the franchise. It's like, what's so crazy about it is not only the stunts, but just the quality of it in general, and how the franchise is able to consistently produce good movies. Like basically everything after 2 is like great. Like the third one is like the third movie is like decent. Like it's very, very good, but it's kind of like that middle ground kind of thing, but it's still very, very good. And it's like the lowest rank of the next 5 movies, in my opinion. So it's like, it just shows like, that movie's great just in general. And then everything after that is just better. And it just keeps getting better. You had Ghost Protocol. Then you had Rogue Nation. Fallout, which is like, Fallout, which is amazing. And then, of course, Dead Reckoning. And now you come up to the Final Reckoning. And there's like, there's 2 main things that I didn't really like here that were kind of like the bad takeaways. And they weren't like huge things. They didn't make me not like the movie, but they did stick with me. And one of the main things was in Dead. I mean, this is a huge story. The concept of this is so much more high stakes than any Mission Impossible ever. That's the whole point. But I think Dead Reckoning did a fantastic job of still making the film feel Mission Impossible like, even with the high stakes. It didn't let the high stakes take over the entire movie. Whereas this one, it was the opposite. It feels a lot more high stakes. It doesn't feel as much Mission Impossible outside of just the crazy stunts and stuff, of course. But it's just like that, like creative, fun, unique spy element part of it. It just, like, you didn't feel that like you did in the other movies. You didn't get that feeling. And then really the only other thing was what they did for Luther. And that was just a weird sequence. That made no sense. It's kind of like they just threw that in there and didn't know what to do. They were just like, okay, we're just gonna, have him die. You know what I mean? It just made no sense. It's like, wait, what just happened? So yeah, that was definitely really, really weird. And yeah, it didn't resonate with you. Like he's such a memorable character in the franchise. It's been in like, I think he's been in like every movie. And he, this is how he goes out. Like it's not like it's sad. It's literally the opposite, because it just is like, wait, what just happened? Like what the heck? It doesn't feel like it had a reason. It felt like they just did it. And I did hear things like there were parts that were cut out, but it's like, then just don't, I don't know. I think there's better ways they could have done that. But I think in general, this is definitely the most thrilling of the Mission Impossible movies. I mean, that whole underwater scene where he has to like go in the ship or the sub is insane. I mean, that is just edge of your seat at its finest. And that is just amazing, especially in like IMAX. Like that was insane. And then what's craziest about it is that after that, you're like, oh yeah, we're only halfway through this movie. We still got to get Gabriel and stop him. And then of course you got that huge fight scene on the plane, which is crazy, of course. And it's just a really like entertaining movie, which is what these films do best. And I really think just those two takeaways did kind of lessen it a little bit, because these movies are known for being very good and they don't really have big problems. They have little, like maybe little things, but it's stuff that's usually overlooked completely by all of the great stuff. And I think this movie didn't quite nail that. But saying that, however, it's still a great movie. And I am going to mute my phone right now because I keep getting emails about, just random stuff. Yeah. So, all right. 2 worst is a Minecraft movie. I saw this movie in April with some friends and in Dolby. And we did not have it was not raining popcorn in our movie theater, but it was still pretty crazy. There were a lot of iPhone flashlights turning on, and we were like, oh my God. But for me, there were some interesting takeaways with this movie, because, I mean, all my friends were like, oh my God, this movie's awesome. Whereas, listen, guys, I'm a movie person. I watch this movie and I'm like, this is fun, but it's really stupid. And I mean, it's of course what you should expect. Like if you're going into this movie expecting great, just something really good, you're going to get disappointed, because that's not what this movie is. It's not what it's trying to be. But saying that, however, it is still very fun, but that's about it. It's fun. It's really cool seeing all of this Minecraft stuff. And actually, I saw videos after watching the movie about all of the stuff in it. And it's like every little element of this movie is based on something in the Minecraft, just any of the, like, all the games, all the, like, everything Minecraft, which is super, super cool for the hardcore Minecraft fans, which I am not. I play Minecraft all the time, but I don't play it like, how most people play it. I just play it in creative and build whatever I want. But yeah, that's like really, really, great part to it, just in general, that it has all of these little things to it. But I just think on a movie level, it's nothing you haven't seen before. And I also said this with Elio and stuff, where it's just that kind of story where it's like, you got these characters, they don't really fit in, they're having problems. So what happens next? They get sucked into this really weird world, and then they go on this crazy, amazing adventure, and then once they get back to the real world, everything's good again. It's a plot structure you have seen countless times, and it's one that, of course, in a movie like this, that's based on source material, it's like you've seen it before. You know what I mean? Like that is how these movies are structured. That's how the Mario movie was structured. That's how it works. So it is cool what the story does, and it's of course fun watching Jack Black, even though it makes no sense for that casting. It is really, really fun. But it's like nothing new. And but I will say that one thing I took away from this movie, because like the Mario movie in 2023 was, I mean, it met my expectations on what I wanted it to be. Of course, that movie wasn't, great movie either, but it was great for what I wanted it to do. But what I think it really did great was it took its source material and just embraced it. Whereas I think in Minecraft movie, it actually goes harder on, like, compared to like other movies, in kind of making fun of its source material, where it's like you got these, like in the Mario movie, you know what I mean? Like you have the villain in the Mario universe is a turtle, a massive talking turtle. And a plumber is saving the day. And they don't act like that makes no sense in the movie. They act like it makes total sense. In a Minecraft movie, it's literally complete opposite. And that's how it is in all these movies where it makes fun of itself. Marvel does it all the time. The thing I know that is just in my head right now that I'm thinking of is when it's in, I forget which X-Men movie it is. I think it's the first X-Men. They joke about his costume. They joke about Wolverine's costume. I think it's like the costume he's wearing, and I forget exactly what it is, but it's almost like they joke, like, imagine if you were wearing like yellow spandex or something, which is a crack at Marvel because that's what he wears in the comics. And the Mario movie didn't do that at all. And that was really, really cool to see that they were just embracing everything about these games and not making fun of itself. But the Minecraft movie does it so much more than any other movie. It says like, this world makes no sense. That's the movie. You know what I mean? So, but I think otherwise from that's just a me thing. But I do think it is of course funny. It makes for some fun jokes and gags and stuff. So yes, very good movie. On like the adaptation video game aspect, meeting the fans' expectations. But as a movie itself, very silly, very corny, very no sense at all. Number 2 best. And honestly, this is very, very close with our number 1 best, but I think that one just slides ahead for story stuff. But number 2 best is F1. And wow, that's what you feel when you leave this movie. I've seen it twice in IMAX, and it just like blows me away every time. Because it's just that powerful of a movie with the insane visuals. That's the key. And it starts off just like that, where you have it just like right off the bat, that's what happens. It just starts, the movie literally starts off in a car, in a race. And then you got this crazy sequence of the Daytona, like 24 hours race, whatever. And it's just amazing because every time they are racing in a car, you feel like you are also in the car. And the 2 standout moments there are that opening sequence and the ending sequence when he's like, that right at the end, the last race, right before he wins, is amazing. Like, you are just like blown away because of how crazy it looks, it feels. I mean, F1 in IMAX is like an experience like no other. It's absolutely insane. And I think when you look at it from a story basis, like I just watched, I think like maybe a year ago, I watched Ford vs. Ferrari for the first time. And that's a great movie as well. But that is leaning more on the story aspect of this, true story of this feud between Ford and Ferrari, where Ford was trying to build a better race car than Ferrari to beat them at the, I forget what it's called, the another 24-hour race. But it had a lot more story to it. This one has story. This one's not based on a true story at all. But it's mostly for the racing and the characters. That's what this one is. But at the same time, I will say something really cool is that, like, I am not a racing fan, whatever. I have never really been a fan of racing like that. But I think because of that, I'm also one of those people who it's hard to understand, like, how much there is into racing. Like, you think like racing is just, driving and all around these tracks and, you know what I mean? Like, that's like all it is. But I will say that F1 did an amazing job of really showing those people, myself included, like, there's so much more to racing than that, and it does a great job of presenting that. It did a really good job of that. And I just think in general, like Brad Pitt is just really good in this movie. I don't know the kid who plays Joshua, but he is really good as well. And I think this is just like, it's just an experience, really. It's a really great experience, and yeah, it's like this is the kind of movie like you could just watch like over and over and over again and not get tired of it because of how great it is. So that's my number 2 best. My number 1 worst, one of the more obscure movies on this list. I kind of watched this. I kind of watched this movie against my will almost, and it is the Henry Danger movie, which I think was on. That might have been a Paramount Plus exclusive, like I don't know, 5-6 months ago. And I'm gonna be honest because I was a huge Henry Danger fan as a kid. If you've never heard of the show, it's a Nickelodeon show that ran from like probably like mid 2010s to like I think it ended like 5 years ago, and it was just a fun show with a kid who like he's looking for a new job, and he discovers this job by this guy who turns out to be this the superhero of this town, and this kid becomes his sidekick, and then it's just the show goes over all their adventures, and it's a comedy show. Of course, it's a sitcom. I mean, kind of a sitcom, I guess. It's a Nickelodeon level sitcom, but it's just funny. It's funny characters, and I will say there are some very funny moments in the show, and I just think it's like the movie, like, because Henry Danger is not really a show I watch anymore. Of course, it is more of a kids show, so it's still iffy on a lot of the humor. There are some elements, like I said, are funny, but a lot of it is just it's Nickelodeon humor for 10-year-olds, pretty much. But I will say that there were things about this movie that just did not sit well with me. Not just because of what it was, but because of just what it was not in relation to the show. So I think like the show ended where like the kid now is like really older, and he goes to like this other city and whatever, and he turns into like a emo whatever. I don't know. It makes no sense. But then the movie picks up there, and it just feels like what happens next rather than like a Henry Danger movie. And worst of all, that superhero guy that like who this kid becomes a sidekick, one of the funniest probably the funniest character in the show, isn't even in the movie, which is like, what the hell? You know what I mean? Like, the movie is just, I'm going to be honest, I watched it like probably 6 months ago. I don't even really remember it much. But it was like they had to go into like this it was like a multiverse story. I'm gonna be honest. I don't really remember. I know it was something to do with the multiverse. They had to like go through. I don't know. It made no sense. It was just super weird. It was like, what the hell is going on? And this was a movie. I was literally sitting there watching this, and I was like I was about to fall asleep. I was like, this is like the worst thing I've ever seen ever. It was just not interesting, and it didn't feel like the show at all. It felt like something completely different. And it was just way too complicated, way too stupid. It was like way too complicated and way too simple and stupid at the same time. Which, made no sense, but that's how it was. So yeah, that's my Henry Danger movie. I'm not really going to talk about it too much because, of course, it's more obscure. Probably the only one who really watched this movie, except for like little kids. So yeah. And then we get to our number 1 best, which is Sinners. Came out in, I think, April. I watched it in like May. I think that's when I went to see it. And yeah, this is just a powerful, and that's really what it is. It's powerful, it's uplifting, and it's just really, really entertaining. And it's just like the little things that make this so entertaining. Like, of course, you got like this neat story, and then of course you got the vampire action and all that. But it's just seeing two Michael Jordans just interact with each other is just so entertaining, especially with how good Michael B. Jordan is. And one of the big things that I really gave this movie credit for was it's just a very simple thing. When you see the two of them for the first time, the frame when you see them for the first time, the two of them are like leaning against a car or something. And it's like just from how they're standing, how they're like what they're doing, how they look, even though they are both the same actor and they look identical, you know exactly who is who. You know what I mean? Like you know who both of them are as people. And then you get to know them and you're like, yep, that's exactly what you expect them who you expect them to be, like personality wise and whatever. So that's just a small thing, but something I really give this movie credit for. And it's just Michael B. Jordan is just excellent in this movie for that. Because like after like, I don't know, 10 minutes after meeting him, it's like you don't think of those as both Michael B. Jordan, you think of them as Smoke and Stack. It's really, really cool. And yeah, and of course just seeing them interact with each other is just really good. And I will say everyone gives credit to Michael B. Jordan, but the main kid in the movie, I forget his name, but he is amazing as well. He is just phenomenal. Really, everyone in this movie is phenomenal. And it just all adds up to this really unique experience that mixes like personal storytelling from Ryan Coogler and just this bonkers vampire horror action crazy whatever. It's like insane. It's a huge like genre shift almost. But it all fits together really, really cool, really, really nicely, and it's super cool for that. And yeah, I mean, this is just a great, great movie. It's just really entertaining from just a movie perspective, just in general. It's really, really fun, really cool. And yeah, if you haven't seen this movie, definitely go check it out on HBO Max. It's on there now, and yeah. All right, so that is our movie segment. We now have our video game segment next, and this is going to be a really fun one because we are talking, of course, about Donkey Kong Bananza. This game is Bananza. It is absolutely insane. So yeah, so we're talking about Donkey Kong Bananza now, and I will mention I didn't say this for the movies because I don't think it's as big of a deal because these aren't really newer movies as much anymore. But Donkey Kong Bonanza is very new. Just came out like a few days ago. So if you have not played it yet, don't watch this. And coming, like I just finished this game on Monday. If you want to play this game, don't watch this. Like even if you're thinking like, it's not a big deal. Like this game has more in it than just, like the spoilers I'm talking about aren't just like levels, talking about levels or whatever. Like there is crazy stuff in this game. So if you have not played it yet, please do not watch this. So no icebreaker for this one because of course Donkey Kong Bonanza is the game I've been playing. And so I honestly was not originally going to get this game because of getting the Switch 2, the Mario Kart World bundle, and I got a couple other things like the Pro Controller. I was like, I feel like I shouldn't get this game. Like I don't feel like I'm gonna need it. You know what I mean? Like it looks like a cool game, but it's one I can wait until I don't know, ask for Christmas for it, pretty much. So but it was essentially the direct in June that made me go, whoa, I need to play this game. And that's something super cool because the Mario Kart Direct in I think it was like late April, early May, something like that, did the complete opposite. It made me not really want the game, and I was like, it was just the Mario Kart Direct didn't have a lot of cool stuff and it didn't make the game look better. The Donkey Kong Bonanza Direct did the complete opposite and just made the game look so good that it kind of pressured me into getting it. And I gotta say, because I've been seeing stuff on Twitter, I've been seeing all this stuff, And because Mario Odyssey is my favorite game of all time. It's a game I've been playing for years. It's my most played console game. I've been playing it since 2017 when I got it for Christmas that year. It's just the nostalgia from it, and just in general, just the just how good the game is. It's a game that's one of my most like replayable games for me. It's such a fun video game, and it does give me a little bit of nostalgia sometimes. I've actually been replaying it a little bit. It was like the first first playthrough of the game in years where I wasn't like speed running the game or doing a challenge or anything like that. I was just playing it normally, the way you're supposed to play it. So yeah, I finished Donkey Kong Bonanza on Monday. It took me, I guess I would have been 5 days really to finish it. And the game is just, it's so much more than you could expect. It is, hold on. Actually, wait a second. Before I really get into this, I want to check. It is now 10:04, so I'm kind of curious real quick. This isn't really something you'd expect to see from a podcast, but I am curious to see if something was announced. So let me check real quick. I personally don't expect one, but you never really know. You never really know. Anything could happen. Yeah. Let's see, Nintendo. I'm searching it right now. I don't think it was announced. If it was, it would probably be announced now, unless they're changing when they announce things. And nope. So everyone was wrong. Okay, good. Okay, we're good. I can't even watch it tomorrow anyway. If it was live, I probably wouldn't be able to watch it anyway. All right, we're good now. All right, back to Donkey Kong Bonanza. Sorry about that. But I just had to check. So maybe in our next video we'll talk about that. But anyway, back to Donkey Kong Bonanza. I was excited to play this game, but I wasn't really sure what to get out of it. But I think what's funny about it is because like we just found out maybe, I guess it was like a week ago when we found out that it was the same team that did Odyssey did this game. And you can honestly feel that when you're playing the game. Like there is a lot of little things where you can feel that while you're playing. That's like, oh, this is just like Odyssey, blah, blah, blah. This is very similar. And it honestly, like I've been seeing people say like, oh, this is just Odyssey on steroids. And it really is. And I think it just expands on the exploration, and it expands on just everything with that. Because not only are the worlds so much bigger and more open and stuff like that, but I mean, DK can literally just like break through everything, and it's super crazy, super cool. Just being able to just hit the B or A button, whatever one you pick, and just smash through the ground. It is just super fun. And honestly, one of the things I was kind of worried about when the game first like or during the direct, I was kind of nervous because it was showing all of these different controls, and I was like, this game, I feel like it's going to be really confusing with this game. Sorry, I'm getting thirsty. Because it's just a lot of things that you can do, a lot of different controls, and really every button in this game does something meaningful, like something different, and I was kind of thinking, I was like, I feel like this is gonna be really like tough to get used to this, and it really isn't. It is very nice. I stuck with the A button as the jump button because I liked having like it's neat how the controller works, because you have the B button, the lower one of those four, to go down, and then the Y button to go like just to punch to the side, like where it is on the thing, and then of course the X button to go up. Like it just makes sense based on how where the buttons are in that 4-button array. It just makes sense. And I think those are the main things, and you get used to that a little bit. It takes a little bit to get used to that, but you do. And then of course you got just fun little things like turf surf, whatever. You got the hand slap, which is really helpful, and everything just makes sense, and it really just builds on the quality of that game with how much it allows you to do, but how much it makes, it's not like it's just a crazy amount of things. Like, it just makes sense that you can do this stuff. And it's just, so everything kind of comes together well there. But then it's just the worlds that it's just with all of that ability to just crash through the ground and just destroy everything. It really does make it more fun to explore, because like the Mario Odyssey kingdoms are huge and all, but you have to follow a certain path to get everywhere, unless you're like playing, I don't know, Metro Kingdom or something, because most of those kingdoms are built in that way. But that's kind of like a small thing, I guess, because it's just the way that the game works in its controls and stuff. And but then of course you got Pauline, and that really adds to the charm of this game, because like of course it's a Nintendo game. Everyone says like, oh, Nintendo. It's like a cliche that you call it charming, and that's one of its strengths. And I guess you can say that. But just Pauline is just very charming, especially the fact that she has actual voice clips that aren't just like, rah, 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 you know what I mean? Like actual words is really cool. Like those just those getaways where you can pay money and just build a little getaway where you can sleep and gain some health back. I would do that just to hear what she would say, because when you go to sleep, you can have her like. She'll like say some dialogue before you just in that little thing, and it's just really charming. You know what I mean? It just adds a lot of human charm to the game, which is really cool. And you don't really see that, because you just see some of these characters as like NPCs when they talk, but then you have her, and it's like it just adds a lot of human like charm to it. So it is really cool. And of course, her singing is amazing, and the songs in it are amazing. Now, touching on the music, actually, the music in this game is, of course, you have the songs that she sings during Bananzas, and then of course there's like a couple of other really good songs that she sings, and there's a couple of like scores that are really good. But the music overall, like the score, or the background music, whatever you want to call it, it honestly was just okay. Like, I think what was funny about it, I kind of said this while I was playing it. I was like, a lot of the music in some of these worlds are very like, it's almost like it's just playing chill background music while you're playing. You know what I mean? It's not like playing like some really catchy, like really memorable music. So it is definitely very different in that aspect, and it's just like the music is not memorable in this game because of that. So that is an interesting thing with this game. But I think for the most part, it is just, it's like a lot of the music is good, but it's just not memorable. Like, it is still like good, but you don't recall it because it's not as like catchy or memorable, whatever. And I also think, so going back to the worlds too, the way this game works is, of course, with those layers where you have to the beginning part of the game, you get dropped into this first layer, the lagoon layer, and then the only way to get back to the surface is by going all the way down to the planet core, where any of your wishes can be granted by this Banandium root, and of course wish to the surface and it'll send you back up, whatever. And it's just the layers are very just. It's weird because it's like in Mario Odyssey. This is one of the gripes, people have with Odyssey, is that the size of the worlds is not consistent. You have like really big worlds like Metro and Seaside and stuff, and then you got ones like Cloud. But this game has that as well, but it's almost worse in this game because it's not like, because of course you have like, Cloud Kingdom is meant for like a boss fight, Ruin Kingdom meant for a boss fight, and that's it. Like, it's not meant to be a huge kingdom, even though it has its own stuff. It's just meant to just be there so you can have a little fight in the middle of two different kingdoms. And then of course like things like Lost, like that's all building up to Metro Kingdom, so it's not meant to be a huge kingdom of its own because you're building up to get to Metro. And it's just like in Donkey Kong, it feels even like weirder because you have kingdoms, or you have layers like that, like the junction and the divide, that are just meant to like the divide is meant for like that fork in the road, and then the junction is where the two layers meet, because it can't just be as simple as how it is on the world map in Odyssey. But in Bananza, it's like there's it's kind of hard to explain this. I know I'm kind of like stuttering a little bit, but like for example, the lagoon layer, first layer in the game. A lot of these layers have sub layers, and what this layer does, and what also happens, it happens with the freezer layer and the forest layer. Happens with, those are the main ones that I remember. And basically you will explore this huge sub layer, and then go to another sub layer and explore another huge sub layer. And it's like every sub layer is like the size of a Mario Odyssey kingdom, which is like, insane. So there's a lot of times in some of these where you reach the sinkhole, but it just goes to another sub layer, and it's like, wait, we're still not done yet? Like, I feel like this layer should be done. Like there are some parts that go on and on and on. And that's kind of how the lagoon layer is at the start of the game, where it does feel like there's a lot to it and there's a lot of just parts of it. But then the next layer, the hilltop layer, it's like done in like 10 minutes, 10, 20 minutes. Because it's like once you, do these couple tasks or whatever, and you get the sinkhole, it doesn't any other sub layers. It just literally goes to the next layer. And it's like the size there is baffling, because you got ones that go on and on and on, and then you got ones that just stop abruptly pretty much. It's really, really weird. And I mean, it was a weird part of the game, and especially the second half was very short. And I think it was interesting where it's like you finish. It was around like the fork in the road with the junction, and around that time I was kind of thinking like, I feel like we're close to the end, but in reality you're actually only halfway. And I was like, oh yeah, we still got halfway, okay. But then like the second half of the game is like, you got the resort layer, which is super short. You have the that racing layer, which is also super short. You have that feast layer takes longer, but it's only one sub layer, so it's shorter than like the freezer and forest layers. And it's just very weird because it just like there's no consistency at all. It's even worse in that way than Odyssey, which is super duper weird. But yeah, so that's like a little thing. It's not like a huge thing, because they're still big enough where you will explore them for a little bit, especially if you play very thorough like I did. So yeah, it is fun in that aspect, but yeah, and then, but the main thing that's really stuck with me with this game is the narrative. And I say narrative because I don't really like saying story with this, because it's not really a story. These games don't really, I mean, it is a story, but it's like, the story is very simple, but I like saying narrative because it's like, there's like narrative parts to it that are, it's more to what's going on than just the gameplay and just getting from point A to point B and stopping this person. You know what I mean? Like, there's more to it, and there's more narrative-based things that happen. And it really stems with Pauline. And it kind of builds onto that final segment of the game. And what was crazy about the final segment is that it just did everything I didn't expect a Nintendo game would ever do. Like, it was almost like a Marvel movie, where it's like, oh, like imagine if like this person appeared in this movie and it's like, oh my god, there they are right there, a huge cameo. Nintendo's like you kind of think that too, but for fun, because it's like, you don't like, this isn't Marvel, this is Nintendo. The crossovers are reserved for Smash and Smash only. So the end game there is really cool, because then you got the Forbidden Layer, which is like kind of an iffy layer. It's like there's not a lot there, but then you fight Void Kong, and I was kind of comparing this to Odyssey because they're very in line with each other. Like you get through this Forbidden Layer here, which is kind of like Bowser's Kingdom almost, or I mean, yeah, it's pretty much Bowser's Kingdom. In how they level with each other. And then you have the fight at the end, which is like a big fight, but it's like, it's not the last fight, and you know there's going to be more to it. So then you go to the Planet Core, and you got this whole segment at the end, you have these huge sections and stuff, they got all the stuff to do, and then you reach this thing, because you have this huge reveal at the end. And of course, after Void Kong, you have that reveal of K. Rool, and it's like, okay, we got to keep going. Which, by the way, I just got to say, that was a crazy scene. That was just so cool to see. Like, there was no build up to that at all, at least that I noticed. It wasn't like, like blah, 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 like foreshadowing. Like, no, there was nothing, unless I just didn't see anything. I was just oblivious, maybe. But then you go through, I'm pretty sure it's like, after that, there's like some sections to do before you get to the actual Banandium route, I believe, like the actual one. And but he's already there, so then you got to fight him in this little fight. It's the one on that when you're like rising up, going to the surface, and it's like, okay, we beat him here, but we're not done yet. And that's where it kind of goes haywire, and that's where things get interesting. Because then it's like you shoot up in the New Donk City. It's like, holy shit, we are in New Donk City from Odyssey. Like, the continuity is kind of coming together. And it's really cool to see that. And I was even joking because, and I tweeted this too, not knowing what would happen. One of the things Pauline says in one of those naps in like a getaway or something, she mentions something about like a city hall, like being on the balcony or something. And it's like, oh, okay, so I guess she's always been in the city hall. It's a kind of cool reference to Odyssey, but then it's like, no. Like, this is like the same, like, we are about to see that. Like, it's almost like that is foreshadowing what happens, which is awesome. And then it takes you up into this huge, crazy thing where K. Rool takes over New Donk City. And that basically serves as like the final part of Odyssey, where they're like inside the moon thing with all the moon rocks everywhere, and you're controlling Bowser. But then what's cool about that is like Mario Odyssey, the boss fight, because a lot of people classify that as part of the boss fight, but the fight itself is just fighting Bowser. Everything after that, I say, is like post-fight, because you're not really fighting him. It's like the escape after fighting him. And the fight's really just not great, but then you have that cool part at the end with Bowser, and that's the kicker. It's that segment. So now we're still in line with DK Bonanza. You go through this whole thing in New Donk City. Both of them don't take too long. But then when Mario Odyssey ends, after a couple of boss fights that were like, they were cool, but they weren't like, big like final boss what you like level, DK Bonanza has a boss fight, and it makes that the kicker. And it's a very cool boss fight. It's difficult. It's fun. It takes advantage of the controls of the game with all the bonanzas. It is really, really cool. And like I said, it is hard. Like, it will take you a couple of tries to beat it. So very, very cool for that. Because the game ends on an insane boss fight. And it just feels so powerful. And then it has that narrative stuff at the end. Pauline stays in New Donk City. And DK returns. They meet their dreams. Donkey Kong jumps back into the sinkhole. Title card. Like, it's just cinema. You know what I mean? That's what it is. It's like when you say like absolute cinema, absolute bonanza, whatever they say on Twitter for this. It really is great for that. That it really feels like a really satisfying ending. And it's just crazy that it has that. Because I was joking while I was playing. I was like, oh my God, imagine if we had like Donkey Kong Bonanza here. Oh my God. And then it's like, oh my freaking God, we actually got, or no, I'm talking about New Donk City. We like, oh my God, we actually just got New Donk City in this game. We're here. So super, super cool. Amazing way to end this game. It's just insane. It's amazing. So yeah, just an incredible video game. Really, it really is. And the really last thing I want to mention with this game, after I drink a sip of this Propel here, the main thing I want to say is that I cannot say definitively now that I like this game more than Odyssey, because I just can't say it, because Mario Odyssey I've been playing for years, so I can't say that immediately that this game is better because I just played it for the first time. You know what I mean? Like it was just my first playthrough. It's like, now, how do I think about it? Because I want to play it again and all this stuff. But I will say something cool about DK Bonanza is that it's like Mario Odyssey I have so much nostalgia for, and a lot of stuff there because that was like a huge game of my childhood and stuff. But DK Bonanza just, you get those same feelings. Like, of course I don't have nostalgia for this game because it's, new. But you feel nostalgia for it just in the way it's structured. Not just because it's like Mario Odyssey. It just like, that style of game just reminds you of a simpler time almost. You know what I mean? And just playing this for the first time really makes you feel that. So it's really, really cool for that. And yeah, so that is Donkey Kong Bonanza. I think this is an incredible video game, and I definitely think that you should pick it up if you haven't already. Well, hopefully, if you haven't picked it up, you're not watching this because I just spoiled everything. But yeah, that was just such a great ending. Really, I mean, I was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, and just at every reveal, it was really, really cool. All right, we're almost done. We have one segment left to do, which is our sports segment. Let's kind of transition here, move on from the video game stuff, and go into our sports. Talking about some Phillies stuff. This isn't going to take too long. I think I took a bit more time with those other two, but yeah. So this is our sports segment, and I just kind of want to talk about just Philly stuff. And because there is a lot that's been happening in the past couple of weeks, especially since the All-Star game. So first of all, you got Kyle Schwarber. And I mean, that incredible performance in the All-Star game. I actually did not watch that, unfortunately, live. I was in bed. I was asleep. I thought it was like, we won. We're good. And then, of course, AL comes back, and I see the next morning. It's like, oh, my God. Schwarber. Everything went, it was like, whoa. But, yeah, so I guess that was like a week ago from today, pretty much, from when I'm recording. But Schwarber, I mean, has just been insane. He's been so good. He's coming up clutch. And it's just really cool to see. He came up clutch there, and he's still doing amazing here. I think he's at like, 31 now, I think? 30. No, I think he's at like 32 now. 30. Actually, no, I think yesterday was 33. So yeah, he is just raking. He's doing fantastic. And that kind of leans into, because as far as I'm concerned, I was looking at it last night. I was looking at all these details because Schwarber and JT are both free agents after the season. And then Castellanos, I thought he was after this season, but he's actually next year, after 2026, he'll be a free agent. And it kind of is like, because everyone's been talking about this, and it's like, what do you do? Like, do you re-sign him? And here's what I think. Of those three guys, they're not keeping all three of them. I don't think they are. And I'm going to be honest, I don't think they're keeping two of them. I think they're only keeping one. And I think part of that is because all of the money they've spent really since Harper, that massive contract. Then you had Turner, who's $300 million, and you had all these other little contracts here. I think Schwarber and Castellanos were probably around like $100 million ish. All these huge contracts, and it's like, I don't think that they want to spend a lot more money just to keep these guys. And I think Schwarber is the one that they would take because, I mean, JT, what stinks about JT is that he's still a really good catcher. And I know that like all these pitchers trust him, but it's like even like Aaron Nola is still struggling a lot. It's not like, JT's not catching for him. Like he's just struggling in general. And I mean, of course, Wheeler, it doesn't matter. I don't think it really matters who. I think you can put any catcher there, and Wheeler is going to deal. And then, of course, you got Sanchez, who is newer, and I don't think he needs JT as much as those other two guys want him. And I just think that leans into, like, I don't really think you need him, especially with his offense. His offense is really declining the past couple of years. It's just like, I don't think you need to spend the money to keep him, especially because he is older, and that is part of it, that he is getting older. And I just think, like, because I was even thinking, I was like, there's no way that they would trade him now, like, before the deadline. And then, of course, you got Castellanos as well, who is a free agent in 2027. And it's, yeah, so Castellanos is an interesting. He's an interesting story for a lot of reasons, and yeah, it's just weird because he is good and he comes up clutch, but he also just, it's like he's either really good or he just sucks. You know what I mean? He's like the Javi Baez of our team when he comes to like outside pitches and stuff. It's like, it's just, and his defense, I will say, is really good. He's gotten really good defensively here, you do trust him in right field. And with the offense, he can come up clutch. I mean, I think it felt like every time we got a walk off last year, it was Castellanos who got the walk off hit. And, of course, he got it in the playoffs as well. And it kind of like, what do you do with him? Do you keep him? Because I feel like, I don't want to say that he became like a really, like, even more popular in the Phillies. I think he became more popular, but I do think, though, and I think that's the thing with Schwarber and Castellanos, that they are going to be asking for big contracts, especially Schwarber, but they are going to be asking for some massive contracts after this season, probably. Because, I mean, of course, like you say, like, oh, they're going to want to stay here, but it's like they're like Schwarber. I think he started in like 2016. I think he started like, actually, I think it was 2015. It was something like that. But really good with the Cubs, of course. And then he kind of like, he was good for a while. He was still good in that time before he came here, but he wasn't like as big as he, was with the Cubs in those like early days around when they won the World Series. And then of course he came here, helped us go to the NLCS, and then just became this huge name again. And I think now he's on top of all the home run leaderboards. He is going to be asking for a big contract after this season. And I don't know, like, if he asks for like a $200 million contract, are the Phillies going to take it? I think he's like 33, I want to say 34. I'm gonna be honest, I don't really know his age, but he is definitely going to be asking for a big contract. Schwarber is 32 years old. So yeah, it's just tough because Schwarber is, I mean, of course, I think he does really like it here, and he wants to lead us to a World Series. I'm pretty sure him and Turner are the only ones who have won a World Series on this team. And I think that would be huge if he'd stayed because it would be great to have his help in getting us to where we need to, or where we want to go. So yeah, it's tough to say, but I think because I don't think JT is going to ask for a huge contract, but I don't really think that matters. I think we are going to move on from him. Although you don't really know. I thought they were going to get rid of Nola. I thought they were going to let him go in what was it, 2024, I guess. And they gave him a huge contract. So you never really know. And I do know that like Nola and Wheeler do trust him, but I think personally that we do not need him anymore. We can get someone better. And I'm going to be honest. If we trade JT in at the trade deadline, get some good maybe get some good bullpen arms. I don't know, something like that. Just get some good pieces that will help. And we have Stubbs and Marchand in the catcher's role. I will be good with that. I think Marchand and Stubbs are really good. And now sure, are they as good as JT was in his prime? Probably not quite as there. JT is an amazing catcher, but I also think that those two are more than good enough to in leading us to where we want to go. And I think Marchand, really great backup catcher. He's just another really great young talent. And then of course Stubbs is raking in AAA. And it would be great to see him back. And of course, he's a great clubhouse guy and stuff too. And I think that's what you need. I think that would do it. And I don't think JT would. I think losing JT would be okay, especially since a lot of our big pitchers right now are younger guys. You know what I mean? You have Christopher Sanchez, Jesus Luzardo is new to our team, so he of course doesn't need JT as much. It's really just Wheeler and Nola that really trust JT, but I think. Especially Wheeler. I think Nola really wants JT, but I think Wheeler is a little bit more like, you know what I mean? But yeah, I just think as a fan watching that we can probably get rid of JT and be okay with those two. And then it just goes to Castellanos, and it's like. Honestly, JT and Cassie in a trade package would be like insane. That could give you some really big pieces. And I just don't know if they would do it. I don't know if that's not really the Phillies style, I feel like. So and I think if I had to say like keep one, let one walk and trade one. You know what I mean? Like that kind of a thing. I would say keep Schwarber, trade JT, and let Cassie go. I think Cassie's going to ask for a big contract. I think JT is still good, and I think you can trade him. I think I think there's just cases there where it's like JT. A lot of people are probably thinking like, oh, he's older. I don't think people are going to want him as much, but there are teams that could use some really good. Like he's still a really good catcher, even if its offense isn't as good. He's still a phenomenal catcher. And yeah, it's just really, are they going to be aggressive at the deadline? Are they really going to try to go for it this season? Are they going to go all in? And yeah. So then, and then really just the last thing with the Phillies is just the Angels and Red Sox. So at the time this comes out, of course, we'll already know what happens with the Red Sox series. Right now, I'm doing it before the third game of the Red Sox series, but they've already won that series, which is huge. And so yeah, that's definitely huge. And we had a pretty good series with the Red Sox. They were struggling. They've been struggling a lot since the All-Star break, but just in general, the Phillies do as well, especially last year. They fell apart after the All-Star break. But I think just in general, the Phillies they look like they're doing a lot better now, and I'm confident that they're not going to have the same collapse that they had last year, and so yeah, let's see, so the game is tonight at 7:05. I also now I will say this as well. I do think the Phillies offense, it's it's doing what it needs to do, but I think like the first game of the Angels series, they lost 6-5. They were up 4-1 in the third, and they still lost the game to the Angels. And second game they won 9-5. They were able to come back a little bit and had a big sixth inning. And then you have the last game of the series where they just got trounced. I think that's how you say that word. I might have just made up a word right there. And I'm pretty sure, I'm going to check right now, I'm pretty sure that third game was with what's his name? Oh, Suarez. That was Suarez, okay. I forget which game it was. I guess it was the first one with Luzardo. Luzardo is almost like, I'm not gonna say he's like Taijuan Walker right now, but he is definitely struggling a lot. And I think it was like it almost felt like they figured out what was going wrong with him, and then he still was like bad because he just, I don't know. It's just he's just not doing what we want him to do. He's not getting the job done. So you got to wonder like what's going to happen with him. And yeah, Red Sox series go much better though. Of course, they ended Monday's game with a catcher's interference for the walk-off. Bases loaded, catcher's interference. And then another catcher's interference yesterday or Tuesday. And that was just crazy. And it's just something you see all the time where it's like they get in the way of the home plate. And it's like, if it's a pitch, like technically the batter can still swing. I don't think Marsh did. But it's like, yeah, he was in the way if he wanted to swing. And yeah, he is. It's a catcher's interference. So it's very, very funny. But yeah. All right. I think that is pretty much all I have. Sorry, I kind of turned away real quick. I think that's all I have for the sports segment of this episode. And that's it. We made it. I think there's nothing really else to talk about there. That is our very first episode of the Megahit Media podcast. Thank you all for listening, and definitely if like I said, especially for the movies and video game segments, different. I really will talk about any topics with it. Really, the only thing is for video games. I know the most about Nintendo, of course, and so like the next episode, like I want to talk about Nintendo Direct stuff and give some predictions. But yeah, just in general, if you have any, recommendations or not recommendations, if you have any like ideas you want to run by me for, just like what things you want me to talk about, of course, let me know. You can tag me on Twitter. And yeah, I would love to hear what you guys want to hear, I guess. And yeah, so thank you guys very much for listening. The only last thing I want to mention is that I don't think I will be having a podcast the next week. I do want to do this on a weekly basis, but next week I am going on vacation, so I don't think I'll be able to put out a podcast next week. We'll see. So I think the next podcast we're looking at will be probably if I follow what I've been thinking the last 24 hours, every Thursday. I think that's a good date. So that would be August 10th. No, that's not right. August. I don't know. I'm forgetting. Oh, that next Thursday would be the 6th. So the 6th is, I think that's right. Yeah. Sorry about that. The 6th is when the 7th. I was looking at the wrong date. Today I'm filming this is the 23rd, but 24th is when I want to put this out. The 7th of August is looking like when we will have our next podcast. But then after that, I want to try to do this on a weekly basis. Of course, like I said, I'm going to have a Twitter account dedicated for this podcast, but of course I have those other ones too where I'll post stuff, so definitely follow me there. And yeah, thank you all for watching, or thank you all for listening, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and until next time, goodbye.